Hi everybody. As the weather's shit, decided to do a bit on the railway. We have got complete track running. I reset the loop on the outside of Logan's crack. But the project for today, I bought this Peco turntable years and years ago, like all my models. But having moving a couple of times, this is the first time I've got around to fitting it, so I've lost all the instructions. But having trawling through YouTube, all the videos I found are for motorized turntables. Now I don't want to do that because it's so noisy. On all the videos I've looked at, my dad's turntable is horrendously noisy. He's got a couple of turntables in his railway. So I always wanted to have a hand cranking turntable for two reasons. You know, my son's disabled, so he can turn the handle then. So the plan is I'm gonna make a hand crank wheel to go on here. I'll do that on the printer. Now this spindle, you can see there, I've cut the hole for the turntable. It's got a worm gear. This must have come with the turntable. You get a worm gear and that gear to go on the bottom. Now I don't ever remember it coming with a motor, because things I've looked at on YouTube, the motorized kit you get these two bits in it, but I never, unless I already had these bits off of something else. Anyway, so the idea, I will, when I figure out the size of the gear, because obviously when you're turning it with a motor, the motor's doing 100 miles an hour. That's probably why it's so bloody noisy. And it's for the ratio of this worm and that gear. It turns, I think in the kit you get 3 gears in the motor, so you can gear the turntable for what gauge your railway is. Now mine's N gauge, it's quite small, so I want the turntable going quite slowly, which is half the reason why I wanted a hand crank turntable. So I don't quite know with this worm gear and this size gear, the ratio, how fast I'm going to have to turn it to get the turntable to turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mock it up. What I'm going to make, I'm going to glue that worm gear onto this shaft. This is just a bit of welding rod. I might have to beef it up, but there's not a lot of resistance on the turntable. So what I'll do is I'll glue that on in position, and I'll make a bracket to support the rod either side with a small hole, so there's no deflection, so the gear can't force the worm gear off as I'm turning it. So I'll make a little bracket for that. I just happen to have this rod in the garage that fitted that gear. It's a shame there's not an upstand on that gear, so you can put a grub screw through there, because this rod has got a flat. So what we'll probably do is, this fits the bottom of the turntable. We'll erudite this into the turntable, and we'll have to stick this on to the rod. And then I'll put a bend in the end of that rod, and we'll turn that and see how fast I've got to turn it to get the turntable to go round. Not focusing very well today. Anyway, but I can always make a bigger gear or smaller gear, I'm thinking, on the printer. That's not an issue. So we'll have the turntable in there for our little roundhouse. That was a second-hand roundhouse. I put a new roof on it. That's the idea. I didn't want anything too big. So we'll have the steam engines in there. We'll have a couple of servicing tracks over this side. See, we're going to have these bridges I've been making on the printer. I had the original N gauge bridge, but because for the American engines, because they're so long and the coaches are so long, when they turn the corner they were hitting the framework of the bridge. So I made a slightly wider bridge, and I was sort of making a kit so it makes the top, the bottom, the two sides on my print bed. I've got to make a couple more because I want this expanse here is going to be over water. So what I thought is I'll have a couple of tubes. I'll have that tube there encasing my wire for my worm gear, and I'll put a couple of other pipes on there. They'll be like sort of service pipes, and then I'm going to build some rocks here for the first support for the bridge, and then a couple of central supports. But so I can't even remember the number of this turntable. So this is going to be a hand cranking turntable. So what I'll probably do is get a bit of brake pipe to slide over the top of this tube and put some glue in it so it will beef this wire up, because this is only 1.6 welding wire. Now I know there's not a lot of resistance on the turntable, but I don't want this rod twisting. I don't think it will, because there's minimal. This N gauge turntable isn't like the 001. The wheels that are on each side of the table are fake. They don't actually support the turntable. It just turns on the central spindle. It might pinch a little. You know, whether or not I make another one on the printer and put some proper wheels on it. But one thing I was looking at, because I lost the instructions for the wiring, and there's a chap on there who's got a turntable similar to this, which is in 00 scale. Now because I'm running DCC track, you need, as you can see written here to remind me, a Digitrax AR1 auto reverser. Now what that is a little circuit board which is designed to be used on return loops. But the chap says that he spoke to someone in a club and they're ideal for using on turntables, because it's virtually the same idea. Is your pos and neg are turning round, and the auto reverser, you have a cut in the track, so the minute the train crosses from these two polarities onto the other polarities with the opposite way around, it swaps the polarity. So if you can see that, AR1 Digitrax. I'll have a look on eBay, see how much they cost. I've got to speak to the man at my local club who's got Jake's morning daylight, see what he says. I imagine he'll say the same. I'll be seeing him next week. Anyway, that is part one of a hand operated turntable, and we'll see if that works, because I think I'm going to have I've got loads of point motors, but I'm going to be having hand operated points as well, so Jake can use them without it all being too complicated. Okay guys, I'll give you an update probably next week if I can get the gears all lined up. Okay, bye.